New real estate agents struggle. That's just the way that it is. But unfortunately, we don't talk about it a whole lot. And most people probably don't know that 80 to 90% of new agents are out of the business. They failed out of the business in the first 2 to 3 years. And we just like sweep it under the rug like it's crumbs after a dinner with a bunch of 3-year-olds. Now, if I had known this when I first got started in real estate, I may not have actually gotten started. So, what I'm here to tell you is that with 1.4 million real estate agents in the United States, and with 80 to 90% failing like every year, basically, that's a big deal. And I don't take that situation lightly. And as most of you know, or you may not know if you don't know me, that I'm on a mission to help agents launch, build, and scale profitable real estate businesses. So I want to help change those numbers, help people get successful in real estate. And, we spent way too much time, effort, and money to get into the business to not see us be successful. So my big question for today is, how does a real estate agent get started? How do they become successful in those first 2 to 3 years by building a solid foundation and all of these good things that go into that? Because that's what every new real estate agent wants to know. So that's my question for today. What better person on this planet to answer it than my special guest, who has not only successfully launched, built, and scaled an international real estate organization with thousands of agents all over the world, which I happen to be one of them. She's been able to launch in her own way, which I'm going to let her explain here in a second. So straight out of Austin, Texas, today we have Elizabeth Riley, keeping it weird, the amazing and talented modern real estate agent. Thanks, Elizabeth, for being here. How did Austin get the name, like, keeping it weird? Where did that come from?
I don't know, but if you explore Austin at all and get into the different areas, you'll probably answer that question yourself. There's some really cool, quirky, unique parts of Austin, Old Austin, South Austin. It's just fun. You never know what to experience. It just makes it a fun city that attracts all types of people.
Yeah, I've visited a few times. Actually, it's mostly been for real estate conferences, ironically. Had such a great time. That downtown, like the 4th Street area, is that where it is?
4th Street, 6th Street, South Austin. I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for. That's what's cool about the city. It's everybody has something that they can find in the city, whether it's music or food or crazy weird festivals or whatever. It's just there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah. Yep. The big state of Texas. Well, I love Austin. It's such a fun place to visit. Not this time of year. It's too humid. I grew up on the East Coast, and the humidity, I already had my fair share of that. So, but I get it. It's definitely beautiful there. Well, Elizabeth, before we talk about your real estate global domination, and how you got started in real estate, how you launched your business, tell the viewers and our listeners who you are. What's your story before getting into real estate?
Before getting in, okay. So Elizabeth Riley, I am in Austin, Texas. I went to college outside of Austin, and then my first job out of college was here in marketing. My background was international marketing. My minor was Russian, and I had big plans to be, work in international business and stuff. But my first job out of school was here in Austin, and I went to Texas A&M University, which was the rival of our school here. But in early 2000s, I was working at Dell Computer, and I was running college recruiting, and I was doing all sorts of different things that really didn't align with my major. But my husband and I were transferred to Atlanta, Georgia for a number of years. And so I worked for law firms and always in marketing in some way, surrounded by people, just being creative. And that's where I first got started in real estate in Atlanta. And so my background is I've kind of grown up all over in California, kind of raised between Texas and Wyoming, oldest of 6. It's just lots of crazy things that have molded me into being the person I am today. And, now we're in Austin. I'm married and we have 4 children, and, just loving what I do every single day and pouring into others.
That's awesome. So you spent some time in Wyoming.
So my parents, when I was really young, were divorced, and my stepdad, who was, my dad since I was very young, he had family from Wyoming. So we moved to Wyoming in the early 80s to live there. And my family still lives there. I have sisters and brothers, and my parents still live there. And, we used to go to Colorado quite a bit growing up, but yeah, Wyoming's a little too cold for my blood, though. I think I've been in Texas way too long that anytime it goes below 70 degrees, I'm miserable. So
Right. No, I get it. Where in Wyoming? Because as you know, I'm in Colorado. So
yeah.
what town?
Casper.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not too far. I've actually been through there a few times. There was a
Casper, and
restaurant.
yeah, family in Jacksonville, or not Jacksonville, Jackson Hole, Cody.
Okay.
Siblings went to University of Wyoming. It's one of those things where just my husband just came in. Sorry.
That's all right. He can come on too.
Did you notice she almost called me daddy? I love that.
It might be a little bit too much for our viewers and our listeners, but hey, why not, right?
Not that kind of interview today, but
that's okay. There was actually a funny story about that too, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So Wyoming, they're all still there, and it's awesome, but not really fit for me anymore.
Yeah, well, especially since you've been in Texas, there's no doubt, and you've been there for a while. So, yeah. So Dell Computers, international stuff. Why did you choose to get into real estate? What was like the turning factor? Like you were doing stuff in your life, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm gonna go get my license. Like what was that point?
So we were in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was actually, one of the pieces that I left out is I was working for a famous tennis player who had an event company, and we would do major corporate events around major sporting events. And so,
can you say who that was?
Sure, Stan Smith.
Oh my gosh, I had a Stan Smith racket, like an old wooden 80s racket.
Oh yeah, he's one of the most amazing people you will ever meet. And we were doing major corporate events around major sporting events. So like Australian Open or US Open, or at the time I was working on the Greece Olympics with them. And we would go over to Greece and do these different things. So I was living the best life. I'm traveling internationally. I'm doing all these cool things. I'm interacting with athletes. And one day my husband and I were sitting in front of our CPA, and we had rental properties at the time. We still do, but at the time we had rental properties. And our CPA said, one of you needs to get your license. He put our numbers together and he said, you're losing quite a bit of opportunity here because one of you is not licensed. And my husband looked at me and said, you're getting your license. I was like,
he wasn't going to
no interest in getting my license. I was the brat. I was like, I'm not getting my license. So I went kicking and screaming to the real estate school to get my license. And my husband and I were in a Bible study, a couple's Bible study. And 4 of the husbands in our Bible study were all real estate agents with different companies. And so I just was like, ugh.
You're like, great competition.
Yeah. I said, I have to do this. I don't want to do this. What companies should I look at? Yada, yada, yada. And so I talked to all these different companies. A lot of them would not let me be part-time. A lot of them had different barriers that I just could not overcome at the time. And so I ended up going to Keller Williams. And that's why I got on my license. I had no interest in doing anything with my license. I told some friends, okay, I have my license. If you need anything, let me know. I was very unintentional about it. And that's why I got my license, not something that I had this burning desire to do.
So in a way, you almost kind of fell into it. Well, you were more pushed into it.
Yeah, forced into it. Absolutely.
So did you start part-time?
Oh yeah, I started no time.
I started no time.
I was like, I don't want to do that. So here's what happened. I had a friend from college who reached out and said, I want to buy a condo. Can you help me? Yeah, let's go buy a condo. This will be fun. Because it didn't seem like work to me, right? I'm helping my friend. I get to go look at properties. We get to go have lunch. I mean, it was just more of social hour for me, and we're going to go find a condo for you. And so I helped her. I made lots of mistakes, which we'll talk through today, but I made lots of mistakes that I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. And she had a lot of grace, understanding that I was a brand new baby agent. And then the second person, and that was my first closing. And I was like, well, that was fun. And then I had another friend that was in my book club, and same thing. And I was like, well, that was fun. And so all of a sudden I started realizing how much this could be really great, because I love connecting people. I love, serving people and being able to do that on a one-to-one basis. I loved working with buyers. That's changed a little bit because buyers can absolutely wear you out if you don't structure that and set boundaries. I didn't set a lot of boundaries at the beginning, but I was having fun. And so that's just what I started doing, is letting people know what I was doing. And if I could help them, I would. And that's how it started off in Atlanta.
Okay, so that was in Atlanta. That wasn't even where you are now. So did
No.
you have a sphere of influence of people in Atlanta at that time?
Not really. When my husband and I were transferred there, we were newly married. We didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So we just had a really small sphere that I actually leveraged quite a bit. I didn't realize that. Looking back now, I can tell you I leveraged it a lot differently. And I just learned from people that I was surrounded by, and just kind of watched and observed a lot, and wanted to figure out what kind of agent I wanted to be. And so I didn't have a big sphere, but the people that knew me would help me and they would support me. And so I launched in Atlanta, stumbling quite a bit. And then when I launched in Austin, it was a completely different environment. So I built my business in Atlanta based off of people that I knew, but also my sponsor at my old company. He was doing a lot of online lead generating at that time, which, 2004, 2005, that wasn't a big thing yet. Right.
No.
So any of those leads, I wasn't making much money because I think I was paying like 60-40 or 60 to him or 40 to me, but it was giving me more boots on ground and experience that I wouldn't have had otherwise if I was just relying on the small number of people that I knew.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, and you hit so many points that new agents will run into. One you brought up earlier, which was this idea and this feeling of, well, there's already so many agents in my town. Right. There's no way that I could compete with them. You see the agents driving the nice cars, living in the big houses, and you're like, oh. But the thing is, as a new agent, and you realize this, you weren't actually competing with them.
Yeah. Don't compete. It's not.
Well, yeah.
I tell
you're
people
only competing with new agents. Like, you're just in the same pool with new agents. You guys are all learning the same things at the same time. And ironically, your first transaction came from somebody that you knew.
Right.
And that's huge. And a big thing to know in getting started is your sphere of influence. The people who already know, like, and trust you are the people who are not only going to work with you if they know you're in the business, they'll be the ones to refer you other people. And there's already that built-in like trust factor.
Right.
It's so much easier to build a business that way. So that's how you got started. And then there was also this transition. Like you said, you had a mentor who was doing internet lead generation, and that provided you additional leads, but there was a cost for that as well. So we have to weigh these things as a new agent as to what works and what doesn't. And so that's awesome. So what was you mentioned fun a whole bunch, which is great because we have to be passionate about what we do. If we want to reach the highest levels, we have to figure out what was the most fun part of getting started. Like, what did you like best about your first 2 to 3 years that gave you that fulfillment?
I just like the adventure, right? I mean, I liked trying to figure out the right property for my client, really understanding my client and seeing, what about this one or what about this one, and just finding the one that was a fit for them. That was huge for me, getting to sit across the table and handing them the keys and knowing that I'm part of their story. I'm part of their home ownership story. For me, that was super fulfilling. And so I get a lot of energy out of working with other people, and it would just make me want to be a better person and learn more and help more. And I didn't really care. I mean, I think as new agents, we get caught up on what everybody else is doing. And I would do that. I was guilty of that. But I always say, I say this now because hindsight's 20/20, but I always say comparison kills joy, because you can chase all the shiny objects. And I was doing that at first. I was like, well, they're doing it this way. They're doing it this way. And if you're looking at what everybody else is doing, but not really focusing on who you are and who you want to be as an agent, you're going to get lost in the shuffle, and then you're going to lose your joy. So for me, I knew that I wanted to work with buyers at the time. And I was excited about driving around and checking out all the properties, and and being able to be a part of their story and giving them the keys. So that was fun for me. So, my sponsor who had the lead generating, that wasn't fun for him. What was fun for him was generating the leads online. So for some people, social media is fun for them, having their personality, showcasing them in a different way. You just have to figure out who you want to be and who's authentic, because people will see right through you if you're not being true.
You just nailed it. And who you want to be. I talk about this a lot, is embracing your true authentic self.
Yep.
And really understanding who you are, what gives you joy and fulfillment in life. And, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yep.
And those are the people that you're going to want to work with at the end of the day. You and I have been doing this long enough with thousands of transactions under our belts collectively to know that it can be very, very transactional. We can get sucked into that. We can end up working with people and firing people and getting fired from people that we never should have been working with in the first place.
Right.
They just weren't part of our tribe. But when we're first getting started, we're like, we'll take any scraps. But we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Right. If we're really,
right.
Yeah.
If you get that relationship early on, and for me, it's the relationship. Most of my clients, I've been in the business now 16 years, and my business is 100% referral.
Yep.
That did not happen overnight. But most of my clients knew, like, I built a relationship with them. They knew I had their back long past the closing table. They weren't a transaction to me. They were a relationship to me. And because they knew that, they knew who I was, and we became friends, or they had a respect for me after working with me, that built up with the referrals. And it's so much easier to work with somebody that's a warm lead or an introduction, as opposed to, for me anyway. I mean, some people love cold calling. Some people love knocking on doors. If you told me I had to do that to be successful, I would have never, ever been in the business longer than a day. But it's so much easier to work with those warm relationships because they already know you. They already know your style, and they kind of have an idea of what it's going to be like to work with you.
Yep. Yeah. It's like we're bashing internet leads because you and I share that. No, we're not. But what we're doing is we share that similar passion for helping people, being a servant leader. And that's why I do what I do, and getting content out there and chats with people like you to share these messages. So new agents don't necessarily have to face the same, not face the same struggles, but know that they're out there and what they can do ahead of time to prevent it. So, and you also mentioned earlier, which I loved, what was it? Comparison kills
joy.
Comparison kills joy, which is like right in alignment with what, I say, swim in your own lane, right? Yeah. Don't worry. Don't look to, if you're an Olympic swimmer, we've all seen this in the Olympics, that swimmer that looks for one split second over at that competition and ends up losing by hundredths of a second because they just for 1 second took their eye off of that. So
funny you mentioned that. Yeah, because I have a 10-year-old who is super competitive, and he's fast. And he was in a race, and he plays lacrosse, and he was in a race, and he was running, and I saw him do that. He would turn and look to see who was behind him. And I was like, Levi, that's slowing you down. He's like, no. I was like, trust me, try it. And I said, just watch the finish line. Just focus on this finish line and see how far ahead you might be. And he did. And he was like, oh, wow, I was that much faster. But you get caught up in, no. What are they doing? And what's that agent doing? And what's this person doing? Then you're not focused. I mean, I have self-described ADD, right? If I'm focused on what everybody else is doing, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm never going to, get where I need to be. So I say, just figure out who you want to be. Don't follow all the shiny objects, because we're notorious for doing that. And I'm saying this because I'm guilty of that too. I'm like, oh, look at that and look at that. And I always say, don't spend money till you're making money. There's a lot of ways to launch yourself in this business very inexpensively and more efficiently than spending a lot of money.
Yeah, that is the truth. Elizabeth, switching gears, what were your biggest challenges getting started? Like we talked about what you liked and the fun and the enjoyment and working with buyers, getting in the car and really finding what your passion was and linking it to being able to launch and then of course build and scale a profitable business. But what were your biggest challenges, and what did you do to overcome them?
Oh man, there's so many challenges as a new agent. For me, first of all, I was in my head. I was in my way. I had fear. There was a lot of fear. I don't know all that much. They're going to see I don't know that much. I can't support them, or I can't compete with these other agents that know a whole lot more, right? And so it was that lack of education. I mean, because we all take our real estate test and you pass it. And I tell everybody, okay, then you forget that because that's not going to give you any indication of how to sell real estate.
Oh yeah.
And like the first one, you know, I had not ego, but like my first transaction with my friend, I still remember this to this day, that I did not respond to the repair amendment in the right amount of time. I missed the deadline. And the agent kept calling me and I kind of got cocky going, oh yeah, we've still got 2 days, not realizing that I was in the wrong and I could have cost my client something huge. Now, it was the grace of the other agent that was a seasoned agent. She wasn't in my market center. She wasn't in my company, but she recognized I was new and she had grace on me and she helped me through that without being condescending, which I think as experienced agents, we have an opportunity. We were all new once. And I think people forget that. And I try to remember that every single day. I was new once. I made so many mistakes. And if I can help somebody not make the same mistakes, how much further along will they be? And then we all are better, you know, better in our community, better as an industry. So for me, it was fear. It was insecurity. And the reality is we were all new once. We all face that fear. And once I started aligning myself and finding people that I looked up to, and even if I didn't know them, I would just say, I really respect you as an agent. I watch you. You're a leader in our area. I would love to shadow you or take you to lunch and just ask you some questions. You have to get over that. And I was in my way and I didn't do that. Once I started doing that, my business changed.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? And it wasn't so much, it was almost like the insecurity led to almost an ego thing. Like, I don't want to ask because I maybe don't want to seem like I'm desperate for business. But guys, like as a new agent, we have to go through those feelings,
right?
And understand that those are simply just things that we're making up. They're holding us back. We need to just keep doing what we're doing. But you said you joined arms, you linked arms with somebody that was willing to help you, an experienced agent. So to be able to give that back, know that there are agents like us out there, you guys, that we want to do that. Like that's what gives us joy, is to be able to help you and help you navigate this, rather than like, oh, that's a competitor. You know, that's somebody that it's probably not going to help. We're here to help you guys. Yeah. So that's huge, because once you have that accountability and somebody to lean on, it makes things so much easier, because then you learn too their stories about what they went through as a new agent and what they didn't think that they could do.
Well, and I think now, to your point, I mean, now you've got YouTube and you've got all these other resources, and I feel very old saying this, but we didn't have that. I couldn't get online and go research these things. And I mean, that's the only way I was going to get information and get better. I just showed up and plugged in any opportunity where I could learn. And I just was a sponge. I mean, if I went to a class, I was sitting in the front row because I wanted to learn as much as I could, because these are legal contracts. These are people's biggest investments most of the time. And I didn't want to screw that up. So, yeah,
no, that's so good. There's so many different things that we could just keep talking about and go down. But I want to make sure that we hit on all of these as much as we can about being a new agent, what it's like getting started, these challenges, how to overcome them, and know that we've gone through them as well. You reminded me actually of a pretty funny story. So when I first got started, it was right around the same time. I was in 2004. And like you said, we didn't have, like, I think internet stuff was just starting.
Yeah, just coming out.
I think Zillow was even like 2006. So Zillow, I know this for a fact that when I got started in 2004, Zillow didn't exist. We had the MLS, we had the internet, but Zillow wasn't even there. So can you imagine how that in itself has changed? But anyways, I really got started with open houses. So I linked arms with a guy in our office. At the time, it was a Remax office. He had all the listings. So I went to him one day and I said, hey, I know you have all of these listings. Could I hold some of these open houses open for you? And he's like, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So I was holding, model homes open. I was holding resale. And then he launched a new subdivision. I was out there in stick homes. Some of them just had framing, no plumbing, no electric, just, talking to people as they went by. But one of the ones that I did real early on is I didn't really know what I was doing. I laid down on the couch for a little bit. It was a Saturday morning and I fell asleep, and I was awakened by somebody jiggling my foot. And I looked up and he's like, having an open house? And I went, yeah. And just kind of scrambled to my feet, got myself together a little bit and like handed him a flyer or something. And they walked around and he went out onto the back porch. And I was like, maybe it's a good opportunity to go talk to him. So I walked out there. I'm like, so sorry, I fell asleep. He goes, oh, no, I don't care. Totally fine, whatever. And we hit it off. Fast forward, like 3 months later, they were my first closing.
That's so cool.
But I didn't really want to do those open houses at first, is my overall point here. But that was my in. I linked arms with somebody who gave me an in, and that ended up being my first transaction. So it gave me that confidence to move forward with that. So Elizabeth, once you built that solid foundation and you were past that, let's say 2 to 3 year period, or if you felt you had that solid foundation before that, what were you doing? How did you know that you had reached that level where now you could really start building? Maybe you could tap into those internet leads or spend money, as you said. You can't spend money unless you have it. How did you know when you had transitioned into that phase?
The internet leads were wearing me out, just again, because I'm so relational and it's hard for me to, build on calls. I don't get on calls. I'm just very, I want to say I don't get on calls, but I just really want to meet with people face to face. And a lot of those were just a lot of work and a lot of rejection. And you have to get to a lot of no's to get to the yeses, I understand. But just as I started just building the relationships and the referrals, that was awesome. Now I became a top producer. My goal at the time wasn't a financial goal. I wanted to be on this committee. So I met that goal, but then that's when the market crashed. Right. And so I'm starting to get my rhythm and I'm starting to get, my confidence. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome. And then the market completely tanks. And I'm in Atlanta where it burst. I mean, I started all of a sudden had to pivot. You want to talk about a shift.
Right.
We were all of a sudden doing foreclosures and short sales. And that's a whole different animal. And to me, that's a lot more gut wrenching because you're dealing with people who are losing their homes, right? And people that are about to lose their home. And it was very emotional for me. And I was cutting commissions. I was doing all this other stuff because I'm like, if you're about to lose your home, I don't want to benefit from that, But then my husband was transferred to Austin, Texas at that point. So I was just getting in my groove. And then all of
2 years after you got started, approximately?
3.
So you're just kind of hitting that 2 to 3 year honeymoon period, but you were excelling. You had already, how many transactions had you closed by then?
So it's funny. I don't know. I never followed up with my numbers. I never checked my numbers or tracked my numbers until being here, 6 years ago. Oh, I know. Because the numbers, that's not what drove me. I know people tell me.
Well, that's a great point. You weren't numbers driven, so you weren't looking at them. I know you do now, but.
Oh, I look at them now. But I mean, at the time also I got my license. I got pregnant, had my first child. Right. And so my clientele changed. So then all of a sudden now my little one's going on showings with me or listing appointments, or my clients would bring their kids. And it just was it was just not your typical quote unquote business environment. So fast forward to 2008, I'm transferred to Austin, Texas with my husband. I know nobody here. Right. And now I'm married. Now I have a child. My surroundings and my people or my sphere has changed. But I knew real estate. I didn't know Texas real estate, but I knew real estate and I knew that this was an opportunity. So we lived in a townhouse. Everybody lives somewhere. I don't care if you're in an apartment. I don't care if you're in a house. I don't care if you're in a, gated community. Everybody lives somewhere. So I used that as opportunity. So we moved into a townhouse community with 44 homes. And I put my little guy, he was 18 months at the time. I put him in a little stroller or wagon. And we went from door to door meeting our neighbors. I wasn't even licensed yet. I was in real estate school. Okay. I did not go knocking on doors to get business. I went knocking on doors to get into relationships. There's a difference, right? So I would knock on the door and I'm like, hi, Ann. And everybody in the neighborhood where I was living was probably 30 years older than me. Okay. So here's like this young mom with her little baby. I mean, like, right. The little grandmas loved us. So hi, Ann, I'm Elizabeth. I just moved in, 8850. I'm so excited. We just wanted to come and get to know our neighbors and introduce ourselves. So it's just a conversation. That was truly my intention. right? I wasn't trying to just get my foot in the door to sell them. Everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold, right? So I got to know my neighbors, and I went to every single person. And then after that, I got home and I wrote a handwritten letter to every single person. Anne, it was such a pleasure meeting you and your little dog, whatever his name is. We can't wait to see you in the neighborhood, and blah, 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 blah. Because what happened in those conversations, they're like, oh, well, why did you move to Texas? Well, my husband got transferred. What's he do, right? Everybody's going to ask, well, what do you do? Do you work? Well, actually, yes, I was in real estate in Georgia. I'm in the process of getting my real estate license here. I'm super excited. And everybody would say, oh my gosh, it's a horrible time in the market. No, actually, it's not. I mean, this is opportunity. It was bad in Atlanta. You know what I mean? So everybody can get bogged down. Everybody wants to talk about real estate. I didn't look at it as a bad time to get in the market. I don't look at COVID as a bad time to be in real estate. I look at it as opportunity. How can I help people and serve people in a different way? So I went home and I wrote a handwritten note to every single person, not about real estate, but I want them to remember me, right? I teach a class on this all the time, marketing to your sphere. 83% of agents do not stay in touch with their past clients. So to get a handwritten note from somebody and being consistent changes the game. So all of a sudden I have 44 people in my audience. And then once a month, I do now 3 times a month, but once a month, start small, send them something of value. So after that, I sent them a note saying, oh, I just want you to know I got my real estate license. Like I told you, here's a couple of my business cards. If you ever know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, I would be honored to work with them. Say hi to George, whatever. And you just keep it fun. I got, true story, one of the women, her name was Dorothy. She was moved to an assisted living home. And I had a client looking in that neighborhood. And so Dorothy was moved and they said, well, here's her daughter. And I said, well, here's the situation I've known. She's like, I know all about you. You've been sending my mom notes for years. You always make her smile. Like, I didn't even know this daughter. We were able to do that transaction because the daughter thought she knew me because her mother knew me. And then that turned into her daughter calling me and me selling a $1.2 million house for her, right? So you never know who people know or who's watching, but being consistent is what kept me in front of people and kept me, in front of the real estate market and it's top of my game. People are going to call me. They don't care what flyer they got from, some random agent. They're like, oh, wait, I know Elizabeth. So that's how I started building in Austin, just with those 44 people. And then the preschool that my son was in, right? Everybody wants to know and they want to help you out. And so I never want anybody to see me and say, oh my gosh, there's Tripp's mom run. She's going to talk real estate. But I want to make sure everybody knows what I do in a very passive way that's not threatening. And that's just what works for me. It might not work for everybody else, but that's how I got my foot in the door in the Austin market.
Yeah. So you actually launched in 2 different markets. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to say 3 because I'm going to say 4 because you launched in a physical market in Atlanta and that was at 06. So we were
04, 05, yeah.
Which was a buyer's market.
Yep.
So there's 2 different markets compared to then going to Austin, which is physically a different market, yep. And it crashed.
Yep.
Yet that you use the same, we'll call it strategy, which your strategy were related directly to your true authentic self.
Right.
So you didn't just go to a brand new market and brand new market conditions and go, well, now I need to change my strategy. So if you guys are taking anything away from this, take away that people work with people they know, like, and trust. And as a new agent, your number one priority is to have, we'll call them real estate related conversations, which is going to come up because people always say, what do you do? Especially with new people, and to add new relationships to your database, basically, and then consistently follow up. The other big takeaway is everybody has a house. So if you're a new agent, you're thinking about getting started, you're living somewhere. You may say, yeah, but I'm renting in this, neighborhood where I'm trying to get out of and go live somewhere else. That's okay. You can still market to that area. Go out and do what Elizabeth did. Go introduce yourself to the neighbors, right? And then you can let them know, hey, I'm a real estate school. I just got started. It's going to come up. So that's super awesome. So the launch phase is over. You're building. You started a team. When did you start your traditional team that you have now? I think what you have, like a few agents and an admin there.
No, I don't have a team actually. I've always been an
You
individual
don't
agent.
anymore?
Well, no. So I have a
Nope. Well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Your traditional. You don't have it anymore. Okay.
No, I never have had a team though. But
your property group. Your
Lux Property Group. Yeah. So we're a self-organized team. So they're their own agent. I'm my own agent. We're all individual agents. We work under the same brand. So it makes us look bigger. It's just a collaborative effort.
So you went a little bit different route. So that's right. So you never had because I was also at Keller Williams. So you never built like a traditional team.
No, I was always an individual. And when I left Keller Williams, love the company, by the way, it got me to where I am today.
And I agree with you. So if any KW agents out there that are watching or hey, we both owe so much to KW. Yeah. So
no, super grateful to KW, and some of my dearest friends are still there. But when I left KW in 2015, we had 650 agents, and I was #1 individual agent. Yeah. I've never had a team. People think I have a team, but we operate as a team now. But their splits are not, their commissions don't go to me. I mean, I'm an individual agent.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Because I knew just looking, but that makes a lot of sense because I was looking at your website and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And we're going to get into your modern team here in a sec. But when you see a traditional team, that's usually where agents have launched their business. They've built that solid foundation. They have their lead generation strategies in place. They're adding people to their database. They're having real estate related conversations, going on appointments, getting agreements signed, and building the business. Then you start to get so busy, right? You start to get so busy where you either have to turn down business or you have to work more hours and or leverage through people, systems, or tools, and then getting to that point is very challenging. And once you're there, people are usually adding agents. They're usually adding administrative. Well, that takes more work to then train them, to then put these systems and processes in place where then you end up spending time away from your business. So it creates this almost reinvention or relaunch in the next phase. And that's what we see traditionally with teams. That's what's taught in so many traditional models. But you did it a little bit. You took a different spin on that. You made it a conglomerate. You did your own things, own P&Ls, own businesses. Didn't share anything. Maybe some leads or referrals here and there.
Right.
But then you changed. You left Keller Williams in 2015, and you went to EXP, right?
Correct.
Which is where I'm at as well. I mentioned that earlier. As part of Elizabeth's organization, and I'm in Colorado and she's in Texas. So cool. Tell us a little bit about that transition from the standpoint of you've launched in 2 different places. You're built. You're the #1 agent in an office of 650. So you obviously built. Then it was time to scale, and you reached a point with the previous company where you could only scale to a certain level where it was actually financially feasible.
Right.
And then you moved to EXP, which of course you wanted to continue to scale. What was that whole process like, and the scalability, kind of like the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll back up for a few minutes. When I was building my business at KW, I realized I'm one person and I couldn't do it, but I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing, right? As you start building your business, I was wasting time on tasks that weren't income producing. And so at that point, I hired a TC, a transaction coordinator. Now, that's where the fear came in again, because I was like, well, I don't know if I'll have enough business for them, and I don't want to spend the money, and it's going to be expensive. And so what I did is I found another agent that works like me, and we shared one. And when I hired her, that's probably 12 years ago. She's still with me today. When I hired her, my business completely changed. And I was actually making more money. I was more productive because she took off all the things that I shouldn't be doing. And I just thought it was going to be more of an expense. So it wasn't. It was a value add. So all of a sudden, my business is getting to where it needs to be. And I was #1. But the true story is I had the awards ceremony. I did not know my numbers. And we had the awards ceremony. And I'm always top 10. And it was like 10, 9, 8, 7. My name, I was like, well, maybe I didn't do as well as I thought I did. I was busy and I'm tired. And all of a sudden it was Elizabeth Riley #1. And I was like, oh. And the next week I came in, my broker was like, oh my gosh, what a great year. What are you going to do next year? I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Right. And they said, what do you mean you're not going to do that again? Now I have 4 children at this time. And at KW, love them. We talk about God, family, business. And for me, it was all business. And I remember I went home to my husband and I was like, I'm not okay with this. You know, this is not where I want us to be. And he said, all right, well, start your own brokerage. I was like, I don't want to start my own brokerage. I don't want to be boss. I don't want the liability. I don't want the headache. And I always joke that I'm not Catholic, but I have Catholic guilt. If I had an agent that wasn't doing production or couldn't pay their bills, like I would feel guilty about that. And I just did not want that. I wanted us to be collaborative, but I didn't want to be boss. Right. And so I said, I'm getting out of the business. And he's like, you've got to figure out something else. So my Atlanta crew, again, your tribe is there, you know, no matter what, your vibe attracts your tribe. But my tribe from Atlanta was all there. And they had gone to this little company called eXp Realty. And they had talked to me, quite frankly, my sponsor at KW at the time, he'd talked to me when the stock was 10 cents and I didn't listen. 10 cents, right? But it was about timing. And so, and he didn't know what the pebble in my shoe was. I didn't even know what the pebble in my shoe was. I didn't know how to get from A to B. And so they started talking to me about EXP, and they had a team there, and they said, hey, we could work together again. I said, well, how's that possible? Because I had my license in Georgia. I had my license in Texas, but I had to be in 2 different market centers, and it was very, very expensive. And they said, well, you could be in your 2 states under 1 cap. Like the financial opportunities there were great, but also getting to work with my friends again that I missed, that I loved, that I, you know, we collaborated really well. That was a huge eye opener for me. And so that's when when Glenn Sanford and I met, and that was late 2014. There were about 400 agents at the time. And I didn't understand what EXP had in store. Like looking back now, it's very, very different. But what I loved about it was I could leverage more. I could learn from top agents from all over the country doing things differently than what I was doing. I was a big fish in my market center. I was teaching the classes. Everybody was coming to me for advice, and I was pouring into other people, which I love doing, but there's nobody pouring into me. Right.
Oh, and yeah.
People, I mean, that deflates you at some point. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But in this model, I had, you know, Chuck and Doug out of Beverly Hills were some of the first ones I met that were pouring into me in a big way. Virginia, Florida, all these agents in different markets were pouring into each other because we were an owner mindset. And all of a sudden the collaboration gave me that energy that I was missing. And I was like, this could be fun again. And so I just wanted to get back to the basics. 400 agents in this market, in this company. Let me get back to the basics and find my passion again, just serving my clients at a very high level. And that's what had me make that leap.
So you almost quit, huh?
I almost quit. Yeah. I came
Me
home.
too.
Yeah. Did you? I know. Because there's no end in sight when you're on that hamster wheel. And I tell people all the time, as soon as a transaction closed, I was fired until I find another transaction. And that gets exhausting after a while. There's no end in sight.
No, there's not. And I just, and it's interesting too, because it was like, it wasn't at the beginning. I didn't want to quit as a new agent. I felt as a new agent, I didn't have a choice. I kind of didn't. But then like to see the parallels between, like you even mentioned, fear crept in again.
Yeah.
You're the #1 agent in an office of 650, but now all of a sudden the same fears. I'm not going to have enough time. I don't have enough money. All the same fears that a new agent goes through. We go through those again in the building phase and then even into scaling potentially.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I mean, you're right. And all of a sudden, you know, I plug into this new model with these new people and these new energies. And the first year of, I'm agent 466. So I came on really early, but I didn't understand the opportunity. The reason I came on is I said, what if, quite frankly, you know, we were coined the Amazon.com of real estate. And I said, well, what if this company is like Amazon.com of real estate? What if I had known about Amazon way back when? I would have done something, I would have bought stock, or I would have done something to be involved in that. Right. And then I said, well, what if it's not? Well, any company here would take me back.
Right. You go back in a second.
Right. I mean, like, that wasn't a huge risk for me. Again, when I came to Austin, everybody said, what are you doing? You're crazy. I saw it as opportunity. So when this presented itself, I was like, well, I'm not having fun where I am. Let me try something new, and it's opportunity. So then the first full year I was at EXP, we had 2,000 agents, and at the awards, I was number one. And I remember getting up on stage and I told Glenn, I said, are you sure you got the numbers right? And he looked at me, he goes, you should know your numbers. I was like, no,
still.
Yeah. And I said, wow, this is so much more fun. And then the second year in 2017, we had 5,000 agents and I was number one. Now,
still.
Yeah. So now you look back and you're like, hold on a minute. I'm having so much more fun. I'm loving what I'm doing. My cup is being filled. I'm a top agent. What's different? I'm not different. You just talked about it a minute ago. In Atlanta and Austin, I was still the same person doing the same business. But now I had people from other places pouring into me and me into others in a very different way that the industry had never seen. And so I'm, top of my game. So where I could not build my business where I was before, not because of not the lack of trying, but I didn't want to do what they were telling me I had to do to build my business. They told me in order to get past, I think I was at 8 or 9 million. I don't know. I had to go knock on doors and cold call. I was like, I'm not willing to do that. Right. And then all of a sudden I'm in this model where I'm breaking through all those numbers in a very, very different way and having fun. I mean, 6.5 years and I'm looking back going, it's flown by. I'm having the most fun. 2020 was my best year ever in real estate. And, you realize your environment can change you in a big way, in a positive way.
Yeah, I see you. You've been all over the place. You've been doing some traveling, you've been doing some speaking, you've been on some panels, and it really wraps back to what you said around opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where you reached from your building phase of your business into the scalable piece. You knew you could only do so much, but with EXP, the opportunity was even greater, which created even more opportunities for you to continue to tap into who you are. Right. And be able to share your message and your story and help more agents also see the different opportunities for them. So that's super cool. That's so awesome. How did you, so now that you're scaling, because so many traditional teams have built and then they've like gone to a different area. So if I had a traditional team here, let's just say in Fort Collins, then I wanted to go down into Denver and then maybe jump to another state. You've actually been able to expand internationally. Is that right?
Yeah.
Global dominator.
It's crazy.
So how did you go from Little Austin? I shouldn't say Little Austin, Texas. My goodness. Sorry to all my Texas and my Austin folks out there. It's not little. There's nothing little in Texas.
Right.
But you know what I meant from being like, growing your business to then going internationally. So tell me a little bit about that process, how that works, what the opportunity is for new agents that are looking at it from a different perspective. Like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to get to the point where they were talking about where they wanted to quit. Because we got to that point where we wanted to quit, but then new opportunity came about. So tell me about this opportunity and how you've been able to go internationally.
Well, I truly believe people join people. And when I met Glenn Sanford, our founder, for the very first time, again, he was talking to me about, different things about the company, but I really focused on the fact that he wanted to make a real estate company that was the best place that any agent could ever be, right? And he talked about recognizing top producers, which was everybody has a reason for making a move or a reason for being where they are. For me, recognition is a big deal. And being able to have stock for being a top producer was, I love the Icon program. So for me, that's what brought me here.
To just explain that real quick, you don't have to spend a lot of time.
Sure.
But just so for people listening and watching.
Yeah, the Icons are the top producers in the company. Once you get your 80-20 cap to 16,000, you're 100%, which a lot of models don't even do 100%. But We do 100%. And then once you do roughly a certain number of production or transactions in your anniversary year after that, your $16,000 you paid to the company is paid back to you in company stock. For me, that was huge because when I joined the company, the stock was 60 cents. And I was like, well, shoot, I don't have any stock in the company that I've been at for 10 years and I'm a top producer. I'd love to have some stock. And so there was an icon award that was being created. I was actually the first icon named. So that icon award came back to me in stock, and that was 6 years ago. And if you've seen what the stock's done, that's life-changing.
And you've done that 6 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, I'm on my way to 7. I'm almost done. I'm almost to 7.
Okay, so let's just take 7. So for 7 years in a row, you've paid your standard cap to EXP at $16,000. Then you go on 100%. And then EXP's turned around and given you the $16,000 back in the form of stock.
Right.
So if we were to take $16,000 times, well, I think times 6 is $96,000. So that's over $100,000, just like a fair trade-off. Like EXP Realty has given you $100,000, but not only have they given you $100,000, they've given you $100,000 in increments over time where the stock has actually gone overall. It'll go up and down just like any stock, but overall has gone up exponentially.
And it's split. So now it's split.
So, and just so you guys know that are listening and watching, the Icon program is approximately, because again, it's a dollar-based figure. In my market, it's like 24 homes, which probably similar to what it is in yours, Elizabeth. 20-ish.
Yeah.
It's not a ton.
No.
You know, you can get there. As a new agent, it's probably not going to happen right away, but it could. But just to know you get that back. So that was
one of my brand new agents. She got her license and plugged into what we were doing. Her first year did 9 million. Her second year, she iconed. So, yeah. I mean, that's life-changing. So, but the icon, so that's what brought me really, people join people. And it's funny because the agent who my sponsor is at EXP, I sponsored her at KW. So she now attracted me there because if I had stayed in that market, we would have been a team. And so it just kind of built that way. And it's really about relationships. And so I met Glenn and I said, I like this person. I trust this person. He's got big plans, big visions. He's a real estate, you know, he had big real estate teams, but he's a visionary. I was like, well, this will be fun. And so just me talking to people saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. When I made the announcement I was leaving KW, this is when Lux Property Group came about. I had a number of agents that were friends of mine. They're like, wherever you're going, we're going with you. Organically, people will follow you because of who you are or because of the relationships you have. And so immediately I had a bunch of agents that followed me. Now, I didn't understand the impact that would make, but we all wanted each other to win. We were all stuck in kind of in the ruts. And we're like, how can we hold each other accountable and support each other and build something great? So I had a number of agents that just came on board with me. I think we had 6 originally that came under the Lux Property Group. And then some other people were like, well, I want to come too. And then they tell their friends. And it's just over time compounded and has doubled and doubled and doubled. And we had a company with 400 agents. And how in 6 years did we go to 62,000 globally? And it's all because of relationships and those early conversations early on. And people watching me and people watching others in our company building a business bigger than we could have ever imagined and bigger than they could imagine, and seeing what we're doing that shouldn't be done according to old models.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. You got it. And I love what you brought up, you know, that Glenn Samford, the founder of EXP Realty, really wanted to put together a company that was the best place for agents and reward the top agents, not just with a plaque or a Starbucks gift card at the end of the year, but to reward them with ownership.
Right.
Now, the greatest thing with EXP Realty is that regardless of your production, as soon as you sell your first home, you are part owner with EXP Realty, you get stock. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's 4 other ways to get stock with the company. But we don't get that. You've never been able to get that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So to have that piece of ownership, Glenn has given us that piece of the company and rewarding the top agents which is something to shoot for, to be able to get your cap money back and then watch it go and invest it. It's like you said, life-changing. So we're the company now, as of yesterday, 18 countries. Germany was just launched yesterday.
Yeah.
How many countries are you in?
I think I'm probably in all 18.
You didn't check this morning?
I did not. I'm sorry. And we're about to launch in Japan too.
Oh, yes,
So,
I did see that.
But what's really cool about this is this morning I had a coffee meeting with one of my very dear friends. She's in my organization on my front line. Again, she was one that came on early just because she had a relationship with me. I was like, well, I want to be there with you. We met with somebody that she's close to who's from Brazil. And we were there for 2 hours. And what our model is doing is so foreign to so many of these countries. They're like, wait, that seems too good to be true. And I told her, I said, well, that's funny, because I said the same thing when I first joined this company. And I will tell you, looking back, it's not too good to be true. She got on the phone immediately. She's got 2 big brokerages that she has relationships, strong ties with in the south of Brazil. She said, how soon? She filled out her application and she's already on the call with people going, this is life-changing, y'all. Look at what this company is doing. And so I already have people in Brazil in my line, but now one of my agents is going to have Brazil in her line, and they're changing lives left and right. And it's really cool to see what Michael Valdez is doing, and how quickly they're launching these countries. And these countries are loving what we're doing because it's so unique and not anything they've ever had opportunity for before.
Yeah. And it's, you mentioned that it's very, no pun intended, but foreign to them.
Yeah.
It's still foreign to a lot of agents here in the United States, in our local markets, that still don't get it. And we understand that as well. It's easy to understand being on the inside, but it's hard to explain to people on the outside. So it's really about, but let's, this is great. We could keep talking about mostly important. I think the big takeaway from this section here is the opportunity, and knowing that as a new agent getting into real estate, that there are opportunities now with this modern model with eXp Realty that allows for opportunities that we've never had as real estate agents. And Elizabeth and I have been doing this almost 20 years a pop. So if you could go back and start all over again, and we'll keep this brief, what would you do differently and what would you do the same?
As far as real estate, or as far as jumping into eXp earlier?
Well, that I think we all know. But let's just say if you could go over and launch your business over again, anything that you would do differently?
Yeah, I would have time blocked better. I would have been more intentional with my conversations, more intentional with my relationships, more intentional with I was very unorganized. I'm not going to say I've got it all together now, but I just had kind of people not really organized in my database. I'd have your people somewhere, right? The best database and best CRM to use is the one you use. So
that's right.
When I finally got to the point was I just had everybody in an Excel spreadsheet, but have your people organized and don't exclude anybody. I mean, don't be a secret agent, right? Be the mayor of your community. We were talking this morning and she said, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, I would watch her. If somebody needed a hairdresser, Elizabeth had it. If somebody needed a dentist, Elizabeth had it. Be that connector in your community, right? Where people are always seeing you add value and they're going to attract you. I would have done that early on. I was too much of a secret agent because I did not want to be in the business. Or you
didn't mention your numbers.
Well,
I was setting you up for that one.
Yeah, well, and
you would have tracked your numbers earlier too.
My numbers still aren't a big deal to me. The only reason my numbers are a big deal to me now are for Icon, right?
Yes, there you go.
Right, and so I just track my numbers. Here's the honest truth about me. If I am focusing, last year I did 30 million in production. Okay, in COVID, like that's my best year ever. It was crazy. But if I set a goal, and this is just me personally, if I set a goal personally saying I'm going to do 30 million, I'm going to figure out how to get to that goal. I did not want to be in a situation where I was trying to get to this goal at the expense of my clients. Does that make sense? Right? If I'm treating my clients like they're my one and only client, and I am serving them at a very high level, those numbers are going to come because they're going to tell everybody about me. So I don't know my numbers except for the fact I couldn't tell you where I am right now. I mean, I could because I know how far I have to get to Icon. But after Icon, I don't care about the numbers. Okay, who am I serving today? So I'm not saying that's the best thing. That's not something I'd go back and change because that's just my personality. But I would be more organized and I'd be much more intentional and I would be consistent. Consistency is key. If the new agents, I don't care how many people you know. If you only know 5 people, love on those 5 people. Go to lunch with them. Get in conversations with loan officers. You've got to have your arsenal, right? You need to have your team of people. You need your loan officer. You need your title company. If you're an attorney state, your attorney. You need your handyman. You need your inspector. You need all these people. Well, they come across people all the time. Say, how can I serve somebody? If there's ever an opportunity where I can work with somebody or you could refer them to me, please let me know. I'd be more intentional with those relationships.
Yep. Intentionality is definitely very, very key.
Yeah.
And tracking your numbers. All right.
Tracking your numbers. I know.
I'm going to tease. That's going to be our joke. I'm going to tease you about your numbers.
Or I'm going to start calling you Glenn from now on.
She doesn't know her numbers. Hey, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, you should. That's a good one. He's a great person.
All right. That's awesome. All right. So here, we're going to try something new today. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. And I want, it's kind of like Family Feud. You know how they do that at the end? He asks the rapid questions. We won't have like a score or anything. And I just want to hear what your answers are. So you have to you can't take time to think. You just have to ask, you just have to answer the question. All right.
Okay.
All right. You couldn't hear me, could you?
No, I was going to say I was looking for questions. I can't hear anything or see anything.
Okay. No worries. All right, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's your favorite food? The one.
I don't know. I can't. I'm sorry. Okay, chocolate. I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking
the one instruction. The one thing.
I know. Okay. All right.
Favorite food.
My brain. I've got this. All right. Chocolate.
Favorite dessert.
Chocolate.
Favorite sport.
Aggie football.
Your favorite movie.
Favorite movie would be Son-in-Law.
Favorite superhero.
Black Widow.
Ooh, who's your favorite kid?
Of my family? In my family? I am not answering that. All of them.
Favorite client ever.
Favorite client ever. Probably my first one, Nicole.
Love it. Worst client ever.
Oh, I can't say it. Can I give initials?
Sure.
Her name starts with a S.
Oh, it's a female.
Yeah. Capital
of Vermont.
Syrup. I don't know. What's in Vermont? I don't know. I've never been to Vermont.
And then it's Montpelier.
That was random.
Totally random. Almost as random as this one. This will be the last question. Poison or Motley Crue?
Oh, Poison.
Oh, look.
CC. Right? Oh my gosh, the guitars. Absolutely.
You just got right on it. I love it. Hey, so that's
Bret
perfect.
Michaels, I mean, come on. Like Motley Crue doesn't even come in close.
Oh, wow. I don't know. We may have to have a debate over this next time that we get together.
Funny story about Poison. When I was growing up, my parents were very, very, very strict, and I used my babysitting money to buy that tape. Remember the tapes?
Oh yeah,
because they all had makeup on the cover. My mother threw it in the trash. I was heartbroken.
Oh no way! That's right. Good old days of the hair bands. Ironically, Katie, my wife, and I, we just saw Guns N' Roses 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I bet that was good.
It was really good. Same era, a little different genre, but at the same time. All right. So Elizabeth, in order to make sure that our viewers and listeners take away one message today.
Yes.
For new agents, what would that one message be?
Give yourself some grace. A lot of agents make this look really easy, and it's not easy. We work in our business every single day, and we struggle with things just as much as new agents. So just give yourself grace and understand that the pieces are going to fall in line.
Give yourself some grace. Absolutely, you guys. It's going to be challenging. It's not easy. It's like drinking through a fire hose getting started. It's going to be challenging. You're going to be scared. We've both experienced that. Every new agent does. We know you're better and bigger than that. You can just face it head on and get through it. And of course, we're here to help you as well. So, feel free to comment below if you have any questions for Elizabeth or myself. Make sure and use the chat box. You can comment on any of the platforms that we're on. We'll answer your questions. We'll get back to you. We want to be able to help you. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been really, really fun. And I know I've learned a lot from Elizabeth, and I hope that you did too. And thanks for watching live. If you're watching on YouTube or any of the other channels we're streaming on, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing such an incredible amount of knowledge and inspiration for real estate agents, not only new agents, but for agents of all levels.
Well, I am honored you asked me, so thank you.
Well, thanks so much. It's been so cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this will wrap up this episode of the Modern Agent live stream. I'm Jeff Ruby. I broadcast this show every week with incredible guests to help real estate agents like you launch, build, and scale profitable businesses. Again, if you have any questions or comments for myself or Elizabeth, please be sure to add those in the comments. We will get back to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And lastly, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell down there to the Modern Agent YouTube channel for more great videos to help you guys sell more houses and make more money. I'll post the link in the chat and in the comments. And until next time, we'll see you.
See you soon.